Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the anatomy of a centuries-old Italian masterpiece. It's a dish that relies on what sounds like a totally impossible flavor combination, yet it stood the test of time to become a literal icon of regional Italian cooking. If you've ever wondered how completely opposing culinary forces can somehow come together into perfect harmony, well, you're in exactly the right place. I mean, think about it. Veal plus tuna sauce? Mixing a super delicate cut of meat with a rich, creamy, fishy sauce, it honestly sounds like an outright culinary mistake. If you were just looking at these components conceptually on paper, you'd probably assume they'd clash horribly. But in northern Italy, this exact combo is considered absolute culinary perfection. It's a brilliant study in contrasts. It's literally known as the dish that sounds wrong, but tastes absolutely perfect. So today, we're going to completely demystify Vitello Tonnato. Now, the sauce definitely gets a lot of the glory, and rightfully so, but we are going to focus heavily on the absolute foundational technique you need to make this whole thing work, the delicate art of poaching the veal. Because honestly, if that meat isn't prepared flawlessly, that beautiful sauce has absolutely nothing to stand on. Moving on to a Piedmontese history, from the 18th century to a modern masterpiece. Let's look at its origins to really understand the prestigious culinary pedigree behind this plate. The evolution here is actually really fascinating. Back in its 18th century Piedmont origins up in northwestern Italy, early versions probably contained little to no tuna at all. Instead, they relied on preserved anchovies and other intensely savory ingredients to get that big umami punch. But then, the 19th century brought a massive shift. As canned tuna became widely available, it got incorporated into the recipe, and it gradually took over as the defining ingredient of the sauce. Fast forward to today, and Vitello Tonnato has completely cemented its status as a signature Italian antipasto and an absolute staple on the menus of traditional Piedmontese restaurants. All right, let's get into mastering the veal poach, the core challenge. This is the absolute most important part of our explainer today. Making this work means building two totally distinct flavor pillars. First up, we have the veal aromatics. We're talking a fragrant bath of onion, carrot, celery, some bay leaves, and black peppercorns, all hanging out in a mix of dry white wine, water, and sea salt. This liquid is what's going to gently flavor that meat from the outside in, giving it a really deep, complex foundation. On the flip side, we have the bold elements waiting for the sauce. High-quality tuna, anchovy fillets, capers, egg yolks, some good extra virgin olive oil, and lemon juice. But, and this is a big but, we literally cannot touch that sauce until the veal is handled flawlessly. So, getting that perfect poach really just comes down to 3 meticulous steps. Step 1, you bring the veal and those beautiful aromatics up to a very gentle simmer. Easy enough, right? But step 2, this is the ultimate secret of the whole dish. You absolutely must allow the veal to cool completely inside its own cooking liquid. Leaving it submerged while the temperature drops is the exact magic trick that locks in the moisture and keeps it from drying out. The meat kind of acts like a sponge, reabsorbing all that deliciously seasoned broth. Only after that do we move to step 3, which is transferring it to the fridge until it's thoroughly, totally chilled. To understand why this matters so much, you kind of have to look at the chemistry of the cook. A gentle simmer cooks the meat slowly, yielding a tender, juicy cut that practically melts in your mouth. A rolling boil, on the other hand, that's going to aggressively agitate those proteins, seizing them right up and leaving you with tough, dry meat. Basically, if that liquid is bubbling rapidly, you are ruining the dish. Seriously. Keep it gentle, keep it quiet, and respect the protein. Okay, moving right along to crafting the tonnato sauce and assembly. Now that we have our perfectly poached and chilled meat ready to go, it's time to pivot to that bold, contrasting sauce. The final assembly is another 3-step process, and it really demands precision. Step 1, we're blending our tuna, capers, anchovies, egg yolks, lemon juice, olive oil, and some black pepper until it's perfectly smooth, super creamy, and just easily pourable. Step 2 is where all our careful poaching truly pays off. Grab a very sharp knife, or even a meat slicer if you have one, and cut that chilled veal into paper-thin slices, arranging them nice and neatly on a platter. Finally, step 3. Generously spoon your tonnato sauce right over the veal, top it with a garnish of whole capers and some fresh parsley, and give the whole thing a light drizzle of olive oil. But wait, don't serve it just yet. You actually need to chill it for another 30 minutes to let all those complex flavors truly harmonize. Up next, avoiding common culinary mistakes. Because even with a crystal clear process, things can definitely still go wrong. Let's look at a few traps. Here is what you absolutely want to avoid. First, like we stressed earlier,
boiling instead of simmering. Just don't do it. Second, slicing the meat while it's still warm. Cold meat is what cuts cleanly into those elegant, paper-thin slices without shredding into a mess. Third, settling for cheap tuna. Premium olive oil-packed tuna is completely non-negotiable here, guys. It provides the silky fat your sauce desperately needs. Fourth, leaving the sauce too thick. You really want to thin it out with a little olive oil or even some of the cooking liquid until it flows beautifully over the meat. And lastly, never ever skip that 30-minute resting time at the end. The flavors really need that final chill in the fridge to marry together.
Which brings us to an Italian summer masterpiece. Let's talk about the cultural tradition here and that incredible sensory payoff when you actually get this right. When you execute this perfectly, the magic is just undeniable. As the quote says, the tuna doesn't overpower the meat. Instead, it blends beautifully with the salty capers, anchovies, and bright lemon, creating a perfectly balanced bite. When you take the time to gently, patiently poach that veal, its incredibly tender texture becomes the ultimate canvas for that deeply savory sauce. They just melt together into this surprisingly refined, harmonious flavor profile that totally represents the true sophistication of Piedmontese cuisine. It's honestly exactly why this dish remains such a beloved staple at family celebrations, weddings, and those big festive summer meals. So after exploring the history, the meticulous poaching technique we just broke down, and that careful assembly, I gotta ask, would you try veal with tuna sauce? Are you firmly in the absolutely camp? Maybe the I'll try just a bite camp? Or are you sticking strictly to the classics? It's a highly counterintuitive dish for sure, but it's one that richly rewards a little culinary bravery and a lot of patience in the kitchen. Keep exploring those unusual combinations, and thank you so much for joining me for this explainer.